for all you who may have tuned back into another live stream of mine. In today's video, folks, I wanted to talk about both how and why mostly all modern women, and what I mean, if you want me to specify more by modern women, mostly all modern women, women in the 20-something-year-old, 30-something-year-old, 40-something-year-old age bracket are seeing this recreational use, so to speak, aka sex objects. Because think about how, fellas, anytime you go to Instagram, what do you see most of the time? When you search for beautiful women, you see so many scantily clad women making, if not reels or stories, when they're wearing hardly nothing. You usually see them posting pictures, half naked pictures. Am I right or wrong? If not, if their breasts, usually their derriere, if you know what I'm talking about. In most cases, both. And these are usually some of the most drop dead gorgeous women you could find. Women who a lot of us men wouldn't mind at all taking out on a date, would be very proud of to introduce to some of our family members, to some of our homeboys, only to realize that most of these women, and in some cases women who we may have hooked up with, only to realize of how the majority of these women aren't the exact types of women that you would want to wife, that would want to have as wife material, walk down the aisle, down the altar, and marry. Am I right or wrong? Due to the simple fact that a lot of these women are seen primarily as sex objects, aka and quote unquote recreational use, due to the simple fact of how these women in most cases ain't meant to be faithful. From the women that you may see at the local gym, who may come scantily clad at whichever local gym we may patron, and the main ones who may come to the gym and pretend like they may be coming to work out to stay in shape, only to have an ulterior motive, and the ulterior motive is to be able to find some man who may be thirsty enough to want to be intimate with her, and most cases want to first and foremost exchange money in the form of being intimate with her, whether it may come in the form of paying a bill or for some other kind of reason, in order to be able to become intimate with her. Even if we may go usually from time to time to the grocery store, chances are we may happen to come across a woman who may be scantily clad, a woman who may be practically wearing nothing. You know, you may be a guy that's married in some instances, and your main intent may be to go to the grocery store, pick a few items from some of the basic necessities, such as either toothpaste, toilet tissue, those kind of things. Or it could be to buy groceries, especially on behalf of us guys who may be single, who may stay by ourselves and may be single, who may not be in relationships at all. Or not only that, but you could be a married guy while grocery shopping and with your woman. Or if not married, a married man, a man in a relationship who's not married, but maybe have a lady you stay with, and who you may have been in a relationship for X amount of years, only to be shopping with her, see a woman dressed in some skimpy, some real tight gym pants and a halter top, showing all her cleavage, and no matter how you may try to prevent yourself from looking, and by you being a man, you gonna look, and you, because of temptation, and it may come a case whereas you may try to play it off like you ain't looking, only for your lady to find out about it and take offense to it. These are some of the few examples of how so many modern day women, especially women within the 20-something-year-old age bracket, are usually seen as only quote-unquote recreational use. If you see where I'm coming from, guys, because Think about, for some of you guys who may be in church, think about how when it will be times when you will be in church service and it just so happen it may be a woman coming in a dress, and by it being almost summertime, we're only a few weeks away from summer, expect more and more women to be going out in public, even women with children, because it will be times when could be at the grocery store and I may um happen to see a woman out the blue and when her children wearing a top and wearing nothing underneath her top. I could see her nipples poking through the top. I am not lying. And it could be a house on top, due to the simple fact of how these women, most of these modern day women within the 20-something, 30-something year old, 40-something year old, even older age bracket, are usually seen as sex objects, and some of them want their attentions to be known off the rip of how some of them are just out for sex. Some of them are not in it for a long-term relationship. Even some married women, you may have a case where you may see a woman shopping at the grocery store, fellas, and she may happen to have on her wedding ring only to be out and about at the grocery store or even at the mall without her husband, but still be scantily clad with hardly nothing, um, wearing primarily nothing. Or she may happen to be fully dressed, but may happen to not be wearing a bra, and therefore you may happen to see her nipples erect, even if you may try not to not look that hard. Sometimes you can't help but to notice when a woman is, ready, so to speak, whenever she may have some really erect nipples. And that's how you tell how some women may go out in public not wearing a bra. Those are the main ones who may happen to be in relationships, but yet they still may not be happy with the men they may be in relationships with or in. Also, think about how, because it would be times before, when one time in particular, I went to a local grocery store. I never forget this, and I was at a self-checkout register. This younger lady happened, because I'm in my 40s, she had to be at least in her maybe 20s, if I could recall. Anyway, she happened to have a mini skirt. So as she had on the mini skirt, I happened to spot her ringing up some of her items. So as she was bent over ringing up her items across the scanner to scan all her items, I happened to notice how she had no underwear on, no joke. So I caught myself trying not to look too hard, but at the same time I couldn't help but not to. I mean, she happened to be a fairly attractive lady on top of this. And this is how a lot of guys fall into the trap of lusting after, not only lusting after women, guys within the same age bracket, but this is one of the main reasons why so many guys have kids that they regret having. And not only that, to make matters even worse, why there are so many guys that until this day are having to pay child support for kids that they regret ever having due to how so many guys have been deceived by a woman's physical appearance, due to how so many of us guys look at women for the most part as sex objects. And if more think about, if more guys was to start thinking with this head instead of the other head, the small head, there will be way less guys in court on behalf of child support. Not only that, but think about if more women started dressing more modest, perhaps there will be way less guys who wouldn't have to worry about catching STDs. On top of that, there will be possibly way less guys trying to have sex with women that they barely know, because think about how many guys that are famous, from guys by the likes of Anthony Edwards, some of us call him Ant-Man, whose team just got eliminated in NBA playoffs, the Minnesota Timberwolves, to guys by the name of Zion Williamson. I could go on and on, who happened to fall into the trap of being lured by a very beautiful woman only to become intimate with that woman who they may have met off of Instagram or some other kind of social media platform, and eventually had to end up paying child support due to them settling for these types of women, due to them looking for one thing out of these women, and that one thing would be to become sexually intimate with these women. Now, to just think about, fellas, there will be times before when you will be minding your own business. You could be at a gas station pumping gas, right? And all of a sudden, while pumping your gas at the gas station, you may, after scrolling through your phone, because a lot of us have the tendency of having our phones right in front of our faces, scrolling through our phones, you may look up and see a woman coming out the gas station when a really short skirt, and then not only that, but a halter top showing nothing but her cleavage, and she may happen to have some K-cup breasts. Now, if you may be a man who may be a heterosexual man, how could you prevent from not looking at a woman of that nature? And think about all the sexual thoughts that will be coming to your head, especially if she may happen to have a pretty face on top of that. Chances are you may go out of your way after pumping your gas to approach her and getting to know her. I mean, these women, and due to some fact that how these women are more and more, no matter where you go, and I mean no matter where you go, even if you may work at a warehouse, chances are you may encounter a woman who may make a habit out of coming to work dressed half naked. Because think about how at warehouses, those are work environments where practically everybody is messing around with everybody, where everybody is sleeping around with everybody. And those are the main types of environments where I would say you see the most promiscuous women. Also, another job that where you may see the most promiscuous women, flight attendants. Let's not forget about flight attendants. Let's not forget about nurses as well. These are some prime examples, along with how so many women nowadays are always posting thirst trap pictures. And guys, how many times have you also met a woman, what it may have been either in person or off a dating app, only to start getting to know her, to start sending her text messages and vice versa, just to get to know her on a much more personal level. So out the blue, one day you check your text messages in your phone, only to find out on behalf of how she may end up sending you a very explicit either photo to your phone or a very explicit video. And this is another purpose or another reason of how so many modern day women, both how and why they are seen as only quote unquote recreational use by the majority of guys. Can you blame the majority of us guys, fellas, on why we look at the majority of women as recreational use, even women with children, for crying out loud? Because think about how it's so many women with children, not just by one guy in particular, but more than one guy. That's a prime example also of how both how and why the majority of modern day women are looked at as recreational use. And for you few women who may follow my channel, because the majority of my followers are males, if you want to look at it as recreational use, well, tell me this: why would so many of you have multiple kids by multiple men? Apparently, after having a kid by the last two men you may have had kids by, and then end up having, if you keep on having more and more kids after having two different kids by two different men, well, how can other guys who may have had kids by you, not look at you as recreational use, as only sex objects? And then to be honest, your women who have kids are more promiscuous than women without kids, or just as promiscuous. Because think about the women, like just like the example I mentioned earlier when I was at a local store and I happened to come across a mother who happened to have her kids, one that she had not too long ago had, and she was on the phone. It sounded like I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I just overheard her talking to somebody, and judging from the conversation, she was trying to hook up with the person she was talking to. I'm assuming a strange man. And she may have just made it the moment. One of her kids was kid who happened to look like they may have been in kindergarten, either kindergarten or elementary school. The other kid happened to be a kid who was small enough to be seated in a shopping cart. So this same lady happened to have on the top, and when I say she happened to have on no bra underneath that top, and all I saw was nipples. This is a prime example as well of how why so many guys look at a lot of you women as only sex objects, as only recreational use. Think about also how when you go to night spots, fellas, am I right or wrong? The majority of women that may frequent night spots, you know, clubs, bars, for a lot of my guys who like to hit the night scene, make a habit out of hitting the night scene to be able to meet women. Think about how the number of scantily clad women you may see in those kinds of places may outnumber the women way more so that may outnumber the women who used to come dressed modest. Think about that. And the majority of them, believe it or not, are usually women with kids. The main ones who you see who happen to be dressed the most sluttiest, the most inappropriately at these night spots are the main ones who are the mothers. And the main ones whose intentions are to come to those types of places for one thing, and that's for sex only. To be able to take some man, either take some man back to their spot or go to the man's spot. Some are so big a horse to the point where you could, if you may play your cards right, so to speak, you could be able to have a freak out with one in the restroom or the night spot or the club or bar. Or if not that, either go to your car or go to their car and be able to hit it off, have a freak off in the car when either one of y'all cars with one of them. Anyways, I'm going to end this here live because I already have said a mouthful. Before I end it, make sure you like, share, comment. Last but not least, subscribe. And until next time, I'm out.